In a small, forgotten village nestled between dry hills and dusty paths, lived a young man named Arjun. His life was simple, too simple for the dreams he carried inside his heart. He lived in a tiny mud house with his father, a humble farmer who worked endlessly under the sun, and his mother, who stitched torn clothes for the villagers to earn just enough for a few handfuls of rice. Despite the struggles, Arjun never complained. From a young age, he had seen life's harshness, nights with empty stomachs, shoes with holes, and winters with thin blankets. Yet he believed that one day, something would change. Deep in his heart, he whispered the same words to himself each morning: no matter what happens, I will never give up. While other boys played or wandered the fields freely, Arjun helped his father plow the land, gathered firewood with his mother, and studied by the light of a flickering oil lamp at night. His hands were rough, but his dreams were soft and hopeful. He dreamed not of riches or fame, but of a life where his parents didn't have to suffer, where his home wasn't filled with silence after every sigh. What Arjun didn't know was that life was about to test him in ways he had never imagined. One summer afternoon, as the sun blazed mercilessly over the village, Arjun returned home from the fields to find his father lying on the floor, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Panic rushed through him. His mother sat by his side, holding his hand, her eyes filled with fear. They rushed to the village healer, who said his father's condition was serious and needed proper treatment immediately. Arjun and his mother spent every coin they had on medicine and traveled to nearby towns in search of help. Days turned into weeks, and the tiny savings they had slowly disappeared, as if fate hadn't tested them enough. The worst drought in years struck their village. The crops they depended on dried up and turned to dust. Hunger became a constant visitor in their home. Each night, Arjun watched his mother sleep with an empty stomach, her hands still calloused from sewing. He tried to find work, doing small jobs on nearby farms, but the earnings were barely enough for a few doses of medicine. He grew tired, not just in body, but in spirit. Even his childhood friends began to distance themselves. Arjun no longer had the time or energy to laugh, to sit with them under the banyan tree like before. Life felt colder and lonelier. The spark of hope he had always carried began to flicker. For the first time, Arjun began to wonder, was it time to give up? On the first rainy night of the season, as the wind howled past the thatched roofs and thunder echoed like a heavy heart, Arjun sat silently by the window. Inside, his mother quietly wiped away tears with a frayed cloth. There was nothing left to cook, nothing left to sell, and almost nothing left to hope for. In that moment, Arjun stood up, his feet moving without direction. He followed a dirt path to the small forest at the edge of the village, where a worn-out hut stood, home to an old sage said to hear the voice of the soul. When Arjun arrived, the old man seemed to have been waiting. He didn't ask questions or offer judgment, just looked at Arjun with eyes that had seen too much. Then, he handed Arjun 3 curious items: a carrot, an egg, and a handful of coffee beans. "Boil them in water," the sage said softly, "and return to me at dawn." Confused, Arjun did as told. In a makeshift kitchen, he boiled each item. The carrot turned soft, the egg became hard inside, and the coffee beans, they changed the water's color and released a strange warmth in the air, a scent that seemed to comfort the cold night. The next morning, Arjun returned. For the first time, the old sage spoke. "You cannot stop the boiling water, just like you cannot stop life's hardships. But you can choose how you respond." Sitting beneath the ancient tree beside the hut, Arjun listened as the sage's words fell like morning dew into the cracks of his weary soul. The carrot, strong at first, turned weak and limp in boiling water. The egg, fragile on the outside, became cold and hard within. But the coffee bean? It didn't let the water change it. It changed the water. Arjun stayed quiet for a long time. Then, like a tiny flame sparked in the ashes, a new light appeared in his eyes. He realized he didn't want to be soft like the carrot or hardened like the egg. He wanted to be the coffee bean, someone who could transform hardship into hope. The next day, Arjun didn't go searching for miracles in faraway places. Instead, He humbly asked to borrow small amounts from villagers who still believed in him. With the little money he gathered, he built a small roadside stall, selling wild herbs, forest fruits, and eventually crops from the dry but determined soil of his family's land. Every day, even when exhausted, Arjun smiled. The first few coins went to buy medicine for his father. The first smile returned to his mother's face. And the miracle began to grow, not from magic, but from resilience and a spirit that refused to give up. Time flowed like a stream after drought. Arjun's humble vegetable stall slowly became a modest but popular shop. People came not just to buy produce, but to hear the story of the boy who never gave up, the one who chose to be the coffee bean in life's boiling water. Arjun's father began to recover. His mother no longer lay awake at night in worry. Even those who once told him to leave the village now bowed in admiration. But Arjun remained humble. He still bowed to each customer, still washed every vegetable with care, still remembered clearly. Miracles don't come from magic, they come from choosing not to break. One evening, as golden light bathed the straw roof, Arjun sat at the porch watching the fire glow gently in the kitchen, where his mother brewed coffee. The scent filled the air, warm, tender, and powerful, like the very path he had walked. This story reminds us, life will always bring boiling water, challenges that seem impossible to bear. But what will you become? A soft carrot? A hardened egg? Or a coffee bean, turning adversity into the aroma of hope?